So, welcome everyone, man and all, sister and brethren, to another Sunday at the round table. I also want to welcome the audience, the listeners, quite a few already. We're starting out with 27, which show that there's some interest. Jamaica is always a funny place, you know. A very funny place. You're not sure if you're coming or you're going. That's how I see Jamaica. And I say that because of what I witnessed this past week. I saw the director of public prosecution in a courthouse, you know, and her behavior. I say her behavior. I'm not sure if I saw what was happening, but she was like, thumbs up, cheering on her representative, you know, who was a very funny guy and weird in terms of presentation, you know. And I said to myself, what sort of message this lady sending? You know, if you fail to realize what is it that we are about. And I say that because it's the first time I'm seeing a Rasta man in front of the Lords. And I'm not sure how many Jamaicans share that, but it's the first time I'm seeing that. And I take pride, in that here it is, a young Rasta brethren from Jamaica go before the Privy Council court. And I represent another youth, poor black youth from Jamaica. And behind her represent is thumbs up and a lot of laughing, like she get excited. And I said to myself, what the hell going on here? It seemed like some powerful people in Jamaica really want to get rid of Vybz Kartel. That's just my thought. I'm not true or what. That was
somebody have on a radio or something. And you're talking soft. Can you bring up your volume?
Well, mute. Can you mute for me? So I saw it and I said to myself, what kind of message them people are really sending to the ghetto youths them? And if that sort of behavior there, whether or not that behavior there further alienate working class youth from the system in place to deliver justice. You know, and I tell you, I wasn't happy. You understand? And when I saw it, I said, Rattigan, I want to get ISAT if him come and talk and explain to us what's really going on, because this a lot of youth, you know, as I want to emphasize this. I know a little bit about ISAT. I say I know a little bit. I know his journey. You know, I know the journey of his father. The last time I saw your father was at Port Henderson. This was at a Tubby's dance, King Tubby's and Tippertone. You know, that's where I come. And you take an IRA around the system. And I think this was 1974. You understand? So I know the journey. I not only know ISAT, a little bit about ISAT and the background. But I think ISAT, your Portia's is your grandfather, right?
Yes. I'm the grandson of James Portius.
Yeah, and Portius.
My mother is Joan Portius.
Yeah, Portius is a man with a lot of us, especially those of us who attend Russell and Tarrant. We have to walk past Portius yard by East Avenue, go down, you know. So we grew up with his father as a proud black man. I think he's the only black man in a Jamaica where you see have a Benz pull a bus on White Town Park Road. You know, and just six up him thing. Patrick, remember them days there? So
I remember him. I put the bus, the engine on the Benz seat. The engine on the Benz.
There's a man where No,
And when
for
them
real,
ask him
grew up.
about it, he make it known so that at the bus by the Benz.
By the Benz.
Yes, yeah. So we grew up with this respect and this deep understanding and pride, knowing that when you look on a man, you suppose just dress up every day in working clothes. I go for high all over him and what have you. I never tell him, I'm never fear if you stand up to anyone. And full circle, him grandson in front of the Privy Council present a case. And here it is, DPP in the background, laugh and two thumbs up. And I'm saying, what the hell going on? So, Isaac, welcome, my brethren. Welcome,
Yes,
and
thanks for having me and greetings to your panel.
Big up, Isaac. Big up.
Greetings.
brother, what was the experience like at the Privy Council?
Wow, I must say this. The experience was I'm finding the words. Save and except for. Let me start by saying I learned the law from the judges in Jamaica, not from lawyers. So I am a sole practitioner, and if I got it wrong, it would be before the judges. So I have great respect for the Court of Appeal of Jamaica. And me and Ratigan always we always arguing about this fact because I always say that the justice system, it works. And so the appearing before the Lords was just like appearing before my lords in Jamaica, my black African judges who I call them my lord and my ladies. And the difference is, well, those judges can rough me up and I don't feel no way. So the training was always there. So I knew that when it was time to present the case for Vybz Kartel, who I have great respect for as well as a national treasure, that I'm to do my best. And there's never any room for failure, because I think after Vybz Kartel, it's up in the air. I don't know if it's myself, Vybz Kartel, or Ratigan that's most hated out of Jamaica, but it's a 1, 2, 3 thing going on. So I know that when I present the case, it has to be to the best of my ability. What I did appreciate, and I'm trying to explain the experience, but to say to you that I was met with a lot of it was a welcoming experience. They gave me respect, and they engaged me, and they made me feel comfortable, and I knew I belonged there. I was told after the fact that I was the first Rastafarian to appear before the Privy Council, although there is a King's Council out of England who appears before the Court of Appeal. It's based on the hierarchy of the court, so it was a form of history that was made, and I expected no other reactions or conduct any different for our learned chief prosecutor.
If I can just
And
just
hold on, Patrick. Isaac, I'm not sure how far you can go on the Vybz Kartel case. I heard Bert saying that he expects a return over the verdict overturned. And from the media, from looking at it, a lot of the Lords focus on that juror, the bribe experience. You understand? So I'm not sure how far you can
Yes.
talk about the Vybz Kartel situation, but what little you can share. You want to do that?
No, I
Because
mean
where
the
it is
case
going right.
the case is now with the Lord. So what I have to say has no impact or won't affect the outcome of whatever they decide. They are not daunted or swayed in any way by external forces like the media and those who are unhappy in the public space for what is going to be the inevitable outcome. The conviction will be quashed. I am equally as positive as Bert Samuels, and if you have eyes, you can see and if you have ears, you can hear. What took place on Wednesday is the most embarrassing thing to happen to Jamaica. It is equally as unfortunate as the 6 people who remain in Parliament, and what your DPP has sanctioned and approved is to say to England that in Jamaica, certainly the prosecution will allow corruption on a jury so long as they can get a conviction, and they will take that gamble like somebody addicted to gambling or drugs and put themselves out there, and they have no problem with it. So the question before the Lords and the lady, the single lady on the panel, is corruption okay? Can you have a little corruption and still have a fair verdict in line with the Constitution? It was a total circus show and a disrespect for our Constitution, which I value, and the Charter. And when the judgment is out, the aspect of the retrial, I'm just a young attorney. I think it's a legal absurdity, and I don't see it happening. But the persons, and I think they're hoping for it, has put it out into the universe that a retrial is inevitable. I disagree. I think that if justice is not only to be done, but it must be seen to be done. And whether you think a man is guilty or not, he must get a fair trial, even if the heavens should fall. And that is what we must want for our Jamaica, because that prosecutor that they were behaving like hyenas behind him, and a lot of grin teeth, mouth open wide, and conduct unbecoming of an attorney, if I must say so respectfully. What you would have seen there is the most unfortunate thing, because the counsel for the prosecution, who was on his feet, Mr. Knox, when asked by Justice Burroughs if that what took place in Jamaica was to take place on the soil of England. In other words, if a white man went to court, a defendant in England, and a corrupted juror, a poisoned, tainted juror was on the jury, would he be allowed to remain? And Knox laughed and said, no. But here we are. It is Jamaica. And the judge was between a rock and a hard place. So there is a case called Somerset. And in that case, it says that freedom, you don't breed freedom until you breed the air of England. In other words, justice in Jamaica should be different from justice in England. I am totally offended by that. And I await the judgment, and I use this platform to say, people, when Kartel come out, if him don't take me on tour, I'm going to sue him. If him there America, I'm going to hire Rattigan. Anywhere he is, I'm going to sue him, because I know he's coming out.
I want to remind you that ordinary people in England, in terms of what they accomplished, they had to chop off the king head to reach where they are. Okay. Yes. Let me open it up now, the other brother. Patrick, you wanted to say something earlier.
Yeah. A couple of questions. One is, sure. I thought you know, if you can give us a little more background to the case, if you can. And then the other thing is, I was wondering, was this a physical appearance at the Privy Council, or was it done via Zoom or some other?
No, it's so I guess you haven't seen it then, but it
live on you.
It was live on their website, and it's all over YouTube now. But it was a physical appearance, so I appeared in person before the Lords, along with senior King's Counsel, and there were 16 of us, minus Mr. Samuels and another one who was not present. So Mr. Samuels didn't appear in person. But what was the second question? The background to the case. The Privy Council had set it out nicely on their website. But 5 defendants were charged for the murder of Clive Lizard Williams, who his body was never found. It is alleged that he died. They don't know how, where, what, and when, and by what method, but the Crown, using technological information, which was one, tampered with by the police, changed, tampered with, text messages shifted, manipulated, and then they got information from what's known as JS1 and JS2. One prosecutor conveniently died and took the control copy, and after the control copy, they had what was left was JS2. From JS2, they didn't bother to use the Interception of Communication Act, and they didn't bother to use the constitutional framework to get the actual information. They just said, you know what, forget the Constitution, let me call my friend and get the information. And they breached the privacy rights of Mr. Palmer and all the men, including the dead man and his girlfriend. And they had the judge admit the evidence in breach of the Constitution against the objection of Mr. Thomas Tavares, KFC. It's really KC, but I like KFC, so I just call him KFC. And from there, there was 3 instances where there was some jury impropriety, but 2 of them is the subject of the complaint. The first one, the lady juror number 11 would have indicated that her son was in prison with Palmer and the others who were on trial, and she thought that if she were to give a verdict and the verdict was guilty, they would hurt her son, so she wanted to come off. The background to that is Justice Lennox Campbell. His son was murdered by a colleague's child, and he didn't receive justice, so I guess it weighed heavily on his mind and he dismissed her. That left 11 jurors. At the end of the summing up, the last day of summing up during lunchtime, it was brought to the attention of the same Judge Lennox Campbell that there was some bribery going on, and he heard it from a sister judge. That didn't pretty much come. That wasn't clear on the transcript, save and except for we find on the transcript that they're in chambers. In chambers where they brought in the forewoman who was saying that the miscreant juror, the poison, in bad manner, he wanted to be the foreman, but they voted for her because they like her and they don't like him, and him hate her and so bad mind. But she knows she's gonna do her oath and nobody's listening to him. Then the DPP comes in and said, here's what you do. Warn them of them oath. We're keeping the poison. Don't stop the trial. The defense attorney, the defense obviously said the trial has to stop. The DPP, Paula herself, says, no, just warn them and I will do what I need to do. And the judge says, all right, here's what we're going to do. Prepare the police. And he goes back out and says to them, ladies and gentlemen, I remind you of your oath. Finishes, police is at the door, have them, they go into the jury room under police guard and can't come out until the verdict. They came and said they came before the 2-hour mark, say that they haven't reached a verdict, and they said, oh, you have to go back because the time for a majority verdict hasn't come. They send them back, and ultimately they came back and said 4 of them was guilty and 1 innocent. They arrested the same poison, the miscreant, right after, took statements from all of them, and he was eventually convicted last year, the 2022, and sentenced March 2023. We filed a fresh evidence application asking the DPP whether or not he was convicted, and right up to the day before, they denied it until the day before they filed and agreed that he was convicted. And the appeal shifted at that moment because there was no issue before the court that this man was a guilty man, poisoned the jury as far back as November 2013, and the trial concluded March 2014. March 2014. This is so significant because with all of these happening, that's a context through which was I the one that was gone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I said the context in which everything that I just said in terms of the fact before you it's a most embarrassing experience, even to have a case leave Jamaica under these conditions. What I will say in defense of and I'm troubling Rattigan now, in defense of my most erudite judges in Jamaica, is how we operate in terms of constitutional rights now. Nothing gets past the demonstrable justifiable test, and they under with Justice MacDonald, Bishop, Justice Straw, and the President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Brooks, they formulated the questions that the Privy Council is to offer. So it's the answer. So let me make that clear. It is the court who was concerned, except that they were functus, as in they couldn't themselves overturn the conviction because they already said that they upheld the appeal. And they asked particular questions where if the answer to question A is yes, the conviction must be quashed. And I can tell you the answer to question A was yes. Judges have a duty to respect the Constitution, and all state actors do. And how do you justify breaching the Constitution? And that's where we are right now. And that's a basis. The jury, the unfair trial right, and the privacy rights will be the reason why the conviction is quashed, and why I would submit that there can't be a retrial. 13 years has passed, and this is a travesty of justice.
Just a quick follow-up. So with it getting to the Privy Council, its course to getting to the Privy Council, was it a situation where all appeals before that was exhausted and it ended up at the Privy Council and they decided to hear it, or they had to hear it?
No, so they heard when the appeal, I just answered that. The appeal, the Jamaican Court of Appeal, they issued their decision on the 3rd of April 2020. In 2020, they affirmed the convictions. That is when Mr. Palmer, Vybz Kartel, hired me, as well as our King's Counsel out of England, and we immediately told the DPP to preserve all evidence, and we did what is called a motion for leave to appeal out of Jamaica. When we did that motion, it was granted. There was a concession by the deputy DPP. He was present as well in terms of the violation of the constitutional rights. So I was surprised that when we were before the Privy Council that the position had changed. But it's the Jamaican Court of Appeal granted the leave to appeal to the Privy Council with the particular questions that were to be asked.
But what I'm getting at is and this kind of go to something you had I guess explained on Rattigan show a while back, right?
Yes.
I didn't hear you mention anything about the Caribbean Court of Appeal, and I know the Privy Council is probably the highest court, right?
Yes.
And
yes, but we are not at the Caribbean Court of Appeal, and that's what they have now in that's the argument in Jamaica. We should leave the Privy Council and go to the Caribbean Court of Justice. So the Caribbean Court of Justice has no jurisdiction to hear Jamaica's appeals from Jamaica, except for what's they call the personal jurisdiction, where they can come to Jamaica, right?
They do commercial matters too.
They do commercial and they do They do matters when, like, if you go to Barbados and you're in conflict with Barbados or Trinidad,
Right.
they'll hear it. Direct
Yeah.
jurisdiction.
And with the Privy Council, is it a matter that whatever appeal goes before them, they hear it, or they decide whether they want to hear it or not?
No, they have the what was before them. If the Court of Appeal of Jamaica says they have to hear it, they have to hear it because they're our final court. If
Okay.
the Court of Appeal of Jamaica says no, you still can appeal to them, and then they decide if they want to hear it. If there's something, if there's some miscarriage of justice that they want to do. So, access to justice is much simpler than one thinks, but we are not really educated in that. So with the help of Mr. John Clark, a young attorney out of Jamaica, younger than me but senior to me at the bar, he has cracked the code in terms of getting access to justice for poor people, especially because there's a thought out there that the Privy Council is so expensive that you can't get there. It is expensive, but when you have people like Mr. Rattigan that has the One Jamaica Legal Defense Fund, you get some funding and you can challenge governments and weed out corruption. And sometimes when you have hyenas, well, let me behave myself, sir. Yeah.
And the final piece. So with you
Yes.
appearing at the Privy Council, does that promote you to a King's Council or?
No, man. You make the
Okay.
King's Council them vex with you. No, it doesn't promote me to King's Council. There's a process to be King's Counsel. As the law is right now, when I became an attorney, the law was changed to ensure that I'm barred from becoming a King's Counsel. So they now specifically amended the legislation to say that if you were convicted before, you can't be a King's Counsel. So that's not in the cards for me.
Well, let me just say that you'll be the People's Council. And I will take a quick break, Mikey, but I just want to ask Isaac a couple of questions. One is, there's something called double jeopardy. And in the United States, it means that if you're convicted of a crime and that conviction is then thrown out, the state cannot bring the same action against you. Not that jurisdiction. You can be sued, but if the state brought the action initially and you were convicted and it's overturned, the state cannot bring that action against you. The federal government can bring a similar action against you because it's not double jeopardy. Double jeopardy means prosecuted twice by the same authority. Now, if in the instance where, and I listened to the argument, and now I have the belief that the case will be quashed. I also floated the idea that, when I first heard, when you got up and you spoke, and I said, I think what they're going to do now is that they're going to ask for a retrial. A retrial, in my mind, suggests double jeopardy. Is there such a concept in Jamaican law? And if there is, now what we have is we have fruits of the poisonous tree, and you alluded to that during your presentation.
Yes.
You alluded to the poison and the fruits of the poisonous tree. Is it possible then, even if they allow the DPP to bring the action, for you to use the defense abuse of process, because we have seen where that's been used not to prosecute someone? How does that work?
Well, I'll say this: we do have double jeopardy, but not it's strange. The Constitution allows for a retrial if the court orders it. So that double jeopardy, the conviction wouldn't have been recorded per se if the court overturns it on the condition that there is a retrial. So I will say this respectfully, that I'm not worried. I'm not worried about a retrial. I don't think it's going to happen. Senior attorney thinks that way, but if it does, I'm going to say that I would have had discussions with Mr. Clark, John Clark, and there are several things that's wrong with the case, and I'm not going to do the work for the DPP where that is concerned, but where justice is concerned, we do have a phone that was tampered with by the police. We do have other issues, and so in terms of that, if it happens, we'll just deal with it.
Right, because I was thinking that if the evidence is tainted, then they're prohibited from presenting that evidence to a jury the second time around. And also yeah, and then talk to me about the abuse of process, because I've seen it used when and we can go back to when the prime minister was when he was being investigated by the Integrity Commission, and they tabled a report recommending his prosecution, and the corruption prosecutor on her own talked about the other people who were involved with him. She said for him that she didn't find the evidence, she didn't find enough evidence, credible evidence, to bring a prosecution against him. But the other people involved from the Ministry of Education and elsewhere, there was sufficient evidence, but because of abuse of process. And I found that kind of strange that the prosecutor would make a defense's argument saying that, yes, it's almost like she's anticipating they're going to do it. But my argument is, don't anticipate it. Your job is to bring the action. Let them allege it. So
I guess what you're saying is that she was being more like prosecutor and defense.
Exactly. So is there, and I know this is far kind of removed from your thought process right now because you're fresh off of the presentation before the Privy Council, but preliminarily, have you given any thought to an abuse of process defense, or no? It's
no,
premature.
no. I'm gonna be honest with you. I only speak positive things into the universe. I just know that the conviction in an ideal world, the conviction is to be quashed. Simplicity. There are issues with the Constitution, and the breach is continuing. The delay is significant. There is authority out of the Privy Council, Lysine Edwards, that find it irreprehensible, repulsive even, to have delay such as that. And the remedy for delay is not to put the people through that trauma, the post-traumatic slave syndrome effect, to go through that over again. And so I know certainly that the Privy Council will take those things into consideration when they make their decision. But there is an abuse of process, and I've used it before in a matter involving Tesha Miller, and it was upheld by the court in terms of the DPP actually made a concession and dismissed the case using her powers of nolle prosecute. So if it's raised, it's a conversation that can be had. And where we are in Jamaica right now, when you raise the issues and the legal issues, they're a little bit more mindful to obey the Constitution, which is possibly why the other side is so bent. And when I say the other side, the other arm from within the Constitution, the legislator so bent on changing the Constitution, because it's actually working.
Will you finish?
Yes, I think so.
Maxine, John, let me hear from you. What do you think? You have heard the reasoning?
Yeah, I'm not. I will go
You heard
first
what
because I really didn't have a question. I'm looking at the comments from the public. And the only question I have really relates to the whole question of the Privy Council. I thought that Jamaica had done away with it. I was working in the Bahamas at one stage, and during that time, all the talk was about the Caribbean. The other one you just mentioned, the Caribbean Court
of Justice.
Justice, right. So explain to me what exactly is happening. Why is Jamaica still under the Privy Council? I must say, outside of that, I had a personal experience working in the Bahamas where a case went against me, and they told me that the money to go to Privy Council was more than the money I was suing for. Is there is there a time limit? Yeah, what is the word again? Statute of limitations or
Such a limitation.
whatever? Right. What is
Yeah,
that really in regard? Just as a matter of information.
well, if it was a civil litigation and you lost throughout the using the appeals process through Bahamas, 6 years would have been the statute of limitation. So if the 6 years has passed, you'd have lost that right. But in any event, 21 days time at which you would be able to appeal. So if you didn't do it within the 21 days, would have lost the right to appeal to the Privy Council. No, Jamaica is currently still under the jurisdiction of the Privy Council. Under Section 110 of the Constitution, it's a deeply entrenched provision in the Constitution. So for you to remove yourself from the Privy Council, you're going to have to tear up the Constitution in its entirety to be able to take that provision out and start afresh. Otherwise, you just can't get up and say, we remove you. So that's why we, in terms of Jamaica, is still with the Privy Council.
So why is that? Is our constitution therefore different from Trinidad and Barbados
our
and so
constitution
on?
Very different.
It is. Not only that, it is very different. It is the first, and we
which is why.
And yes, and so there's a lot of things within our constitution, and the way that the sections and provisions are laid out that makes it different.
John?
And by our
Maxine?
Yes, well, greetings everyone. I'm presently before the court on 2 matters relating to music estates that I'm involved in. And so I've been going through what the judicial system of Jamaica and understanding its limitations in respect of cost and people being able to afford lawyers and the delays that are interminable and all of the external issues in relation to justice, different from the actual system, being working on its own. So I find this very educational because I'm actually in the system and I see how it has not worked for our
poor
society
people.
because, yeah, and not just poor people, like even with me with the estates, you're dealing with laws relating to the right of outside, what was outside children before and illegitimate and now legitimate. And I mean, in terms of estate law, it is precarious. And that's why the Administrator General, you actually can't even adjudicate cases because you find that the basis of our society is operating on a different reality from what the law ascribes. There's a big gap. And then the judges seem to have as when Isat was saying, like, the Jamaica judges think that they have to do things differently from England or, they should be allowed to. But that idea from them in the Jamaica setting is coming from how the society itself is an illegal society because it has not really, the people are not living to their human rights as a nation. You understand? We're still, our economy, there's so many things wrong. And so when we buck up into the system and then are given these, oh, you should have been living this way, and you were living illegally, even though you were living legally, but you're really illegal. You know, I understand why we would be in this situation. Myself as a living example of, you know, this reality. So it's I'm observing and I'm learning from ISAT and the experience as to what is really going to happen with this case, not only for Vybz Kartel, but what is it going to open up for a lot of decisions that are made, because England and Jamaica are two different societies. One is, you know, over us and left us in tatters, or, you know, whatever. But their laws still abide in principle. So I look forward to seeing not just the overturn of the case and Vybz Kartel's position of retrial or whatever, but what this means for the whole judicial system, and how, you know, even this Caribbean Court of Justice, would they then agree with Jamaica, because the whole Caribbean is in the same position with its people and their,
Yes.
you know, constitutions, etc. So that's me. I'm very much watching what is happening and how it's going to really play out. I think it's going to be very interesting. The judicial and the legislative, and, you know, how judges and, you know, prosecutors and all of how they're acting, especially as we are aiming to be a republic. And is it a banana republic? You understand what I'm saying? That is why people are, you know, you want the word, but the reality is something completely different.
That's a very good observation. Very good observation.
Mikey.
You're on, Las. You're on. Yes.
Greetings,
I thought you were
greetings.
saying.
Yes,
I was
Laz.
telling
Yes.
Maxine that's a very good observation. I just want to say to your listeners, do not get your information from the media. It's the worst place to get it. I would tell you, don't even get your information from websites, whether they're connected to law firms or courts. Go to the law itself to find out exactly what the law says, because they will tell you that something you're not qualified for something, or you're exempted from something, but the law says something totally different. Similarly, it's unfortunate that we are still under British rule, and before that court, and our laws aren't being updated as their laws are updated. A lot of the laws that they left with us, they have done away with and improved in such ways that we would have had the benefit of it. And the biases and the prejudice that remains in our society, I'm always shocked about it, because it's our own. It is our own that is abusing power and abusing us, and there's no excuse for that. We have a class system. We have two Jamaicas which operate, and it cannot be. It simply cannot be and must not be that they rely on poverty to mete out abuse against the citizens, and then expect the citizens on a $13,000 a week minimum wage to go pay attorneys who want $500 to $1 million for stuff. It's just unconscionable for you to access your right. And that's a part of it that needs to change. But we are a community, and if these things matter to us, the way we go about seeking assistance to the least among us will change the dynamics, because an individual, especially a poor individual, they can't fight the state by themselves. It's impossible.
it's just
That's a very
such a
good
key
point.
point. Yeah.
Last.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Manifesto.
Hold on, Patrick. Hold on,
Manifesto.
Patrick. Last.
Yes.
John, hold on a minute. Hold on. Last, we're talking with brother Isaac Buchanan. And
Yeah, man.
we're
Big up
looking at
Isaac.
the Privy Council
Blessings.
Vybz Kartel thing. I don't know if you saw the transmission on YouTube. Did you? The Vybz Kartel.
Yes, I
appear
did.
at-
I did. I did. I
Okay.
did.
So you want to share your observation with us? Because I know you're very insightful, when it comes to that.
No. First, I just want to get some information from Isaac. I know the appeals court did look at the breaches that you put before the appeals court. I just want to find out, how did the appeals court justify, since the appeal court upheld the decisions of the lower court, how did they, in their decisions, how did they justify the breaches that you mentioned at the Privy Council?
They justified it through paragraph 209 of their judgment, paragraph 238 of their judgment, and I think paragraph 155 of the judgment. Their Court of Appeal judgment. I at this point won't make any criticisms on it, safe to accept that it speaks for itself. And the Lord certainly made heavy weight of the language that was used. For instance, paragraph 238 says, why investigate if you're going to find the true answer, and the result of the true answer will be you would have to stop the trial. So let us put blinkers over our eyes and uphold the conviction. If you're all right with us with a situation like that, and that's the type of country that you want to live with, and that's your concept of justice, then it's a matter for you. But certainly that was the crux of the claim when it came to the jury matter, paragraph 238.
And the breach of the privacy rights, how did they address that?
The breach of the privacy rights, what they did was, and to be fair to the judges at that time, the charter is very young. I did indicate that to the law lords in 2011, and so Lennox Campbell at the time, who was a sitting judge doing a trial very shortly after, in terms of the interpretation, he was concerned, but there was no guidance on how to move forward. And what they did was to just continue with the old law, which was Phipps, where it was the appellant or the accused person had the onus of saying that the right was breached. The charter changes that, because the charter understood our culture. When the charter was written, it understood the cry of the people. When you turn your TV on, anytime something happening in a community, the placards come out and you hear the woman in the slip or our tights come out and say, we want justice. The charter gives effect to that. Because you say, we want justice, a judge say, what is it? You either say privacy, equality, we want to express myself. And the judge say, why did the judge then says to the people who breach the right, why you do it? And justify why you do it. So that's what our charter has done, and that's what makes our charter, and Justice Sykes set it out clearly. It makes it indigenous to us. It makes it for us, by us, and it makes it superior to any constitution in the world. It's an absolute rule.
No,
and they simply never applied it.
Yeah, no, Isaac, you just raised a important point. There was something else I wanted you to speak to on the point you raised earlier. But on what you just said, right, it opens up the question now for you to explain the difference with charter and law.
Oh, it's an easy way to do it. For all those people who think that them is done and them is God, or bro God, or whatever you call yourself, is one done in Jamaica, and is the Constitution. The Constitution is the done of all dons. So when you breach it or make any law or do anything that is offensive, repugnant, violating, in contradiction to the Constitution, it's void as if you don't do it. So our Constitution makes it clear. Constitution and the Charter, which is the Amendment 2011, is a superior law. You can't treat it like words on a paper. You have to give effect to it, and when you breach it, you're in trouble. When you're in government and you think that you're superior, the Constitution makes it clear you are a creature, you are an animal, you are a beast. This is the language of the Constitution. It says you're a creature of the Constitution, and the Charter comes in and speaks about human rights. So if you work for the state while you are at work, you're a creature, you're less than the people you work for. Doesn't matter that you're the Prime Minister, doesn't matter that you're the Minister of Health, or you're a public servant. You work for the people of Jamaica. So the man who is homeless and on the roadside, he's still your boss, and you must respect him. That is what the Charter does, and that is what public education has to do to empower the citizens of the country to understand. So you don't have to war with a police. He works for you. You don't have to argue with the Prime Minister. He works for you. And if you don't remember that he works for you, look at them now, making promises and begging. I've never seen the leaders of the country so sweet. Yeah, when them come to you, say, "Move, man, bring me a 6-piece KFC if you want to talk to me," and them go buy it and bring it, come ask you for your vote. Them begging.
So in effect,
Yes.
what you're saying is, right, that amendment in 2011 is what put everything in perspective.
Oh my God, man!
Clearly.
That amendment in 2011 made us superior citizens of the world.
Right, because I mean I've known of breaches before that, but of course 2011 I wasn't in Jamaica, so now
Right.
I'm understanding in terms of the amendment. But you know, it's interesting because that is something that used to be flouted so much, right? Even at the highest level in Jamaica, right? Where the Constitution just never seemed to be worth the paper it was written on, which has been my position all along, right? And it was for that very reason. It's like the Constitution says one thing, and then the Parliament will come up with a law, Suppression of Crime Act or whatever, right? Because that's one of the classic examples, right? Which seem to override what the Constitution, right, would be saying.
Completely not the case now, and in fact, that is why. I mean, I don't know if when you grow up, but when I was growing up, there used to be when your sister or your brother, you know, I was a middle child, so when them do something, I say yes, no, Spanish town, I got tell upon you, that kind of thing. The Constitution is just that. So everybody who think them big and bad is always yes, do it, because listen, we're gonna sue and we're gonna get the money. Because if you're wrong, you could be strong and wrong till you're tired. You're gonna have to compensate for the breaches. That's how powerful the Constitution is. And unless the state can justify it, and half the time they can't, it becomes very costly. And that is the genesis of why there is this talk about this constitutional amendment, because certainly the current government have a lot of issues with states of emergencies. They're simply illegal.
So then that means, again, in reference to something you had discussed on Ratigan's show before, right? You had gone through a discussion on, if I recall the caption correctly, the Bill of Rights, or something like that. Rights, but yes, Charter of Rights. That is tied in with that 2011 amendment. That comes at the same.
The Charter of Rights is the 2011 amendment.
Okay. That's what I wanted to understand. Okay, good. Good.
Can I say something here? Before I do, Last, will you finish with your questions?
Just one other thing. The prosecution at the Privy Council, ISAT, they're saying that their position is that the prosecution in Jamaica did not breach any real fundamental question of law, and that all that happened was that the judge utilized his discretion in making certain decisions pertaining to the case, right?
You heard that on the day?
I heard that yes, what's his name? Knox, the guy
Knox. Mm-hmm.
who was representing them. Yeah,
Yes,
that was
but
his.
respectfully, Casey Knox is white. Casey Knox is not Jamaican, and Casey Knox cannot interpret the Jamaican Constitution for us. Casey Knox completely cannot treat our Constitution like words on a paper. So he can say what he wants. It's completely inaccurate to say that. Any breach of the Constitution is a fundamental breach. It says the fundamental rights. It says it in the caption.
Oh yeah.
The Charter of Fundamental Rights. So any breach of the Charter is fundamental. And unless you can say it is demonstrably justifiable in a free and democratic society to breach, abrogate, or infringe the rights of the citizen, it is a fundamental breach. So he's treating our constitution like the unwritten constitution in Britain, or the less superior constitution of Trinidad or our sister countries. The Charter of Rights in Jamaica under Section 13(2)(b) is the most superior section of any constitution, and I invite any constitutional expert in anywhere in the world to come and tell me otherwise.
That's what I
It is
found.
a problem for government.
Yeah. I think that is the key. Yeah.
That was what I found as strange about their presentation. It was as if Knox was just like these questions were petty questions that did not really change the whole direction of the decisions in the case.
Well, what he did,
And
what he did though, is said if he is right, which he is not, and he made that clear. He says if the court don't agree,
man, lawyer talk.
Yeah, it's lawyer talk to say, listen, I am singing for my pay. That is my interpretation.
But in effect, what you're saying is to ISAT is that that charter is really what gives the Constitution teeth, as would I say in Jamaica.
Yes. That's exactly what I'm saying. That you would be accurate to say that. Yes.
Fully understood. Understood.
I said most people watching, I would say most, but people watching that your appearance before the Privy Council, they would say one of the reactions is that Vybz Kartel sit down and turn loads of money. That's why I can fight it so far. You have ton loads of money. You have gone through this process and you're still going through it. What are some of the changes you see that would make the Privy Council more accessible to working class youth, individuals? What are some of the changes?
All right, accessibility. So hearings can be done remotely. So lawyers do not have to leave the shores of Jamaica to go and argue before the Privy Council. The Privy Council will also relax for formalities. Yes, the formalities even there. So that's in 1 second. Yes, sorry about that. So those things, but those things are things to consider in terms of the changes is that we now have the remote conference. The only disadvantage to that is the government, and you hear me always say that in terms of equality of arms, as you could see before your eyes, the government could afford to bring 3 senior attorneys to sit and watch the senior KC Knox advocate. So all on taxpayers' money. Taxpayers pay for all of that against the citizen. So notwithstanding, you have the remote access, and it is an option available to the citizen, as well as with everything when it comes to human rights. And I keep on saying this, and this is not a plug for Mr. Rattigan, but programs like them, because there is Jamaicans for Justice, Stand Up for Jamaica in the Jamaican space, and in a program like Mr. Rattigan's One Jamaica Legal Defense Fund, which can assist where there's an important matter, because a matter such as this case, the Palmer matter, although the appellants are going to benefit from it, one can realize that the decision that is made will be to the benefit of all persons in Jamaica. Likewise, if it is an adverse decision, it certainly is going to be to the detriment of persons who find themselves in trouble with the law. So we don't have to personalize it. When you are before the Privy Council, the issues are for everybody. And because of that, persons should listen to what the issues are. And if they have an interest in the society and the advancement of society, they should be contacting and giving funding. And I can tell you this, you said it, but Mr. Palmer spent a whole lot of money. There were applications that I think didn't need to be filed if persons had compassion and empathy, but that was not so. And so you would have had to expend money for that.
I have a question, Isaac. I know I've listened to you a number of times saying you have faith in the judicial process in Jamaica. But I want to ask you, does the conduct of the people overseeing the Vybz Kartel trial, does that conduct really give any confidence to ordinary Jamaicans that the judiciary in Jamaica really concerned about personal rights and certain freedoms, you know?
Before I answer Isaac, something wrong with
We lost Isaac.
Yeah. It's late now in England, you know. So, oh man, it's late. We can continue. Isaac,
Yes.
you heard the question.
I heard the question, and my answer to that is I think it's Rattigan tell you to ask that question. My faith in the justice. Stop sending around questions, Ratty. My faith in the justice system is unwavering. What happened in the Palmer case happened at the time that was much closer to the charter amendments. I am a student of the charter. In other words, I went to law school when the amendments came in, and I was taught by Tracy Robinson. I was taught by a lot of the Caribbean legal luminaries. So my understanding of the Constitution of the charter is a lot more firsthand than persons who practice law and have been in the practice without the benefit of continuing legal education. So how I understand the charter, and I hug it up. I travel everywhere I go. I read it like the Bible, and I learn something new every day when it comes to it. So I can tell you this, I can assure people the justice system, and I'm referring to the judicial arm of the justice system under the guidance of Justice Sykes currently as the captain of that system. It is unwavering, and it works right up to the Privy Council level. So I say to my clients, if it don't work at first instance, we will go to the Court of Appeal, present our case, preserve our appeal, because they best believe when it comes to access to justice, certainly from my point of view, Isaac Buchanan, John Clark, we are going to take it right to the highest court of the land. So beware.
But
Isaac.
That
Mike,
that is that is all well and good. Hold on. That is all well and good.
Yes.
But in this case, you are one of your argument is that there was tampering, police, some evidence tampering with the phones and what have you. How do you stop that? What
Yes.
how you prevent that?
Oh, you prevent that now because I can. You see, that's what's so interesting about this case is that now as it is, a court is not going to allow any evidence in the court in breach of the charter. You're gonna have to use the interception of communication act. You're gonna have to use the authorized person, get the information, make the police will have to make the application to the court. There will be a hearing. There a recent case with a lady who her son had died on cell phone. They use the process. The process works. So we are in a modern time and we have the benefit of technology now where justice isn't so hidden. Well, in the exception of this case with Silvera, where they're shutting people out. Outside of that is open justice and accountability. We are getting to the standard of accountability. So I just making it clear that the Palmer situation was the mistakes of the past, and its correction certainly will steer justice in the right way, in the right direction from the highest court of the land.
It is so
Let me
key
ask
that point you make though, Isaac, because
Ratigan, you wanted to say something. Ratigan,
Oh, yeah. Isaac speaking, and Isaac, I mean, it's clear that Isaac and I, we have ongoing discussions about the law and the judiciary. But let me ask you this, Isaac. Now that we're on
Yes.
the topic of the judiciary, give me your best argument for Jamaica to have its final court of appeal located in Jamaica. Give me your best argument for Jamaica to have its final court of appeal in the Caribbean Court of Justice. And give me your best argument for Jamaica to continue to use the Privy Council as its final court of appeal for matters in Jamaica.
All right, so I'm going to start with the last and get to the first because I like the way that question is set up. Now, the keeping of the Privy Council as it is right now, and why I advocate to keep the Privy Council until I see the JCF dismantled and come again, I will never think that we are in a position to leave the Privy Council. The self-check integrity, the self-check mechanisms are simply not there. We still, when you look into the media, I dealt with a case where a young police officer would have murdered a young man and charged his father. At the end of the trial, when the man is found not guilty, this was last year, December, when the trial concluded. After about 3 years, the man had to be on bail after his son was murdered by the young policeman. The policeman is still not charged for the murder of the young man, and the same policeman that I tell you about, who was the so-called victim, is now before the court for going in another parish and murdering somebody. As long as you have criminals in the JCF, you cannot expect that the investigative arm of the law is going to do what it's supposed to do. It makes, and I'm now defending the prosecution arm, it makes the work of the DPP that much difficult. And so they have to do the best they can with being underpaid, not properly resourced, overwhelmed in the court system, and then prosecute these multiple cases. Justice becomes an administrative process, and because of that, proper justice won't be meted out. The judges, as the umpire of fairness, are also overwhelmed. But it is being corrected because they're paid nicely. They're paid so nicely, have ambition to become a judge. But outside of that, that's the reason, and the only reason why I think that the Privy Council is needed. Of course, Jamaica is also small, and nepotism is still real. and influenced by virtue of just being around forever like dinosaurs, can pretty much eradicate the fabric of justice. The argument for the CCJ, I will say this: I have appeared before the CCJ. Most erudite, brilliant minds from the Caribbean sit on the CCJ, a melting pot, including from Jamaica, including from all over the Caribbean. Their judgments are much more rights based, and they give effect to the charters of every single Caribbean island, and they read into the charter by virtue of generous interpretation. And for that, I would advocate for going to the CCJ. I'm not concerned about the lack of judicial independence, because how I've seen their judgments, and I've seen their novel approach to interpretation of the Constitution. And so I take no issue. I think they're on equal footing as the Privy Council, and it's just a matter of substance over form. The last part of it now, I don't know why Mr. Rattigan include that in the question, but never in my lifetime would I want the final court of appeal to be in Jamaica. Jamaica is simply too small, and there has to be fresh eyes. So my argument for that is the concept of fresh eyes, which is what the CCJ can do that, and which is what the Privy Council is doing. They're simply unattached, unbothered, unconcerned, and only can deal with the law. So when you have persons cursing me, say I defending criminal, and if me not read way in the news, and me is a criminal too, I only deal with the law, and I only deal with rights. And I don't care who you are, every single citizen of Jamaica should have access to justice and access to their constitutional rights, including privacy.
Well, here's a question.
It's not
Here's
an
one
internal
second, John.
Jamaica court.
It is not. CCJs are actually in Trinidad.
Yeah.
What is CCJ?
Caribbean Court of Justice.
Caribbean Court of Justice.
Oh, okay.
All right. Here's a question. Here's a question I really want. Here's a question I really wanted to ask you, but I ask you in a roundabout way to get to it this way.
Yeah.
You have always advocated for the judiciary in Jamaica. In fact, you have supreme confidence in the judiciary in Jamaica. And time and again, you and I would struggle. We battle about the independence of the judiciary, the freedom from influence. So, given the fact that you have supreme confidence in the judiciary, why wouldn't you have supreme confidence in a final court of appeal in Jamaica? Since you have confidence in the judiciary, meaning that the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal, why wouldn't you have it in another court that can render final judgments on all matters in Jamaica?
He's too corrupt.
No, so I answered that. I have zero confidence in the investigative arm of the justice system.
Yeah, but I'm not asking about the investigative arm, which is the JCF and MOCA.
I said the investigative arm. Yes,
yeah, yes. I'm not. No, the question is about the court, not about
that's where it stopped. Listen, no, but you have to understand when you deal with you're talking about trials, and you're talking about trials, whether it be civil, whether it be criminal. What you have to understand is the court can only deal with the evidence that comes before it. That's all the court can do.
Absolutely. I like how you handle it.
A judge is completely unbothered, you know. A judge comes to work, gets the evidence, and is the umpire of fairness. If there is a jury, you have to deal with the jury. So if a hairdresser come on your jury, you got to deal with her. If the gardener come on, you have to deal with him. If the housewife from Upper St. Andrew come on and she's married to a lawyer, she's gonna say, I should be the forewoman because my husband is a lawyer. And I listen to him at the dinner table every night, so I know the law too. And you're gonna have to deal with that. And you have to deal with the biases, whether implicit or explicit, and that's the justice system. But in relation to the judges, there's nothing you can say that can change my mind about how the judges who are appointed and their ability to do the work when you give them the law. What
But
persons need to
Isaac,
do is to ensure that they vet the lawyers that they choose to represent them.
but Isaac, see, therein lies the
Mhm.
problem for me, because if the idea is that okay, the investigative arm, we're not so sure about this, they come up sketchy. That's why you have judges to sift through all the evidence and say, okay, this is allowed, that's not allowed. I'm going to dismiss
Mhm.
the case based on this or that. So the judges, they act, as you rightly say, they act as umpires, right? So I'm saying to you, sometimes judges, and you, it's evident in the case that
Yeah,
you just
yeah, they do,
represented
but that's
before.
what,
It's evident in the case you just represented before the Privy Council that the judges made an error. So what I'm asking you for now is saying, okay, instead of going to the Privy Council, why can't we have, what you call it, instant replay? What you call, like in a cricket, like the umpire will say, you know, we give you out LBW, and then go to the monitor, and then go back and overrule the umpire
Mhm.
who actually watching the thing, but they have another level above the umpire saying, no, 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 umpire, you were incorrect. Why can't we have that in
No,
Jamaica?
that could happen. That I don't think we're ready for that. I don't think we're ready for that.
Why we're
I
not
think
ready?
Jamaica is too small of a country. I answered that already, Mr. Rattigan. Jamaica is too small right now, and there the other arms that has to work in tandem with the judiciary
Make a powerful
simple isn't
point.
ready. They
No,
are
but
just
here's the
not
thing.
ready.
But here's the
But if
thing
Jamaica
too.
is too small for that, if Jamaica is too small for that, then I would argue that Jamaica is too small then for the Court of Appeal. I would make that argument. I mean, where do you draw the line?
No, but you would be wrong. The court, no. It's not draw the line. The court has to have a hierarchy. The concept of justice is that you have different levels and you have a court of review. And the court of review is limited in what it is to review.
But here's the thing.
It's
Here's the
very
thing about it.
limited, and
I
that was
want
evident even this week because it was myself and mhm, yes,
Everything that's being this. I like the way in which you handle
I'm listening.
questions, Isaac. Right? And it's funny because the very point that you have had conflict with Will, right? From his shows and so on. Yeah, and I have talked about it, right? And I've said I took issue with you, but I understand you in a whole better way today. Because one of the things about it is the key to what you said, right? And you just made the point now, right? Is that it's the whole
Hmm.
hierarchy, right? So it really goes to our history.
Yes.
It goes to our history in terms of how
Hmm.
how how we got to where we are. Because this is really, I mean, a lot of times we say, well, okay, it's because
Yes.
people don't not educated and don't understand and all of that, right? Which is true, but they don't understand why. Because this 400 years of history that we're talking about is what bring all of this that we experience now into this seeming reality, right? That we have to deal with, right? And this is where the shortcoming is. Because this was not
Hmm.
designed for us to understand. It's like when you make the whole point about the reform of the JCF without a change of the JCF, right? You cannot really see justice come
Yes.
on, right? You can't see an end to the kinds of corruption that the police bring to the table. Because we have to remember
Correct.
what they were born out of. What made the Jamaica Constabulary Force, right? Something put in place to be what they are right now. It wasn't something designed for us. It was something designed for to be against us, to keep us in control.
Correct. Well, they're to protect and serve. So
Yeah.
we we just need to get back to them doing that. There are a lot of let me just say something though. There are a lot of officers who take pride in being officers. When we speak about the dismantling, is because corruption is something that we are dealing with. That's why we come on these platforms. That's why you guys have these shows, because we need a mechanism to weed out corruption. And unfortunately, it's a stain on the force to have corrupted officers, but there are some of them upstanding citizens and they have self-check integrity. But it is just that we have to change and have the laws in tandem to make that harm a lot more enforceable. For instance, where to have body cams, they don't want to wear the body cams, or they don't have enough body cams. But these are just little things that are going to be important so that the system can change. My recommendation is a complete dismantling and a restructuring, but I'm just one man. My opinions
It's
probably don't
Republic.
count.
Can I make
Maxi,
no,
Maxim, you wanted to say something?
yes, I was responding to Isat's descriptor of small, right? And how
Mhm.
the idea of being small impacts nationhood, right? Because we are
Mhm.
dealing with small island development state issues, SIDS, in terms of existential that we could be wiped out by the climate change conditions that are projected, right? In terms of how our
Mhm.
economies, one hurricane can pass through a place and decimate you, right? So I'm dealing
Correct.
with the concept of small in relation to music. We'll get into it once we go into the One Love scenario. But in terms of all of our products or our economy, it has to be engaged with international joint ventures because the economy of whatever we create or so far is consumed by the international market, right? But you want to
Right. Right.
own you want to own your culture, you want to own your nation, you want to own this, but you are so economically, not politically, you're economically defined by your size, right? That the other day
Mhm.
in one of my discourses, I was like, okay, should we be like Puerto Rico for our music? Because our music product is completely defined by the American music system from birth to present. But we would like to think
Yes.
that we have a national indigenous music based on our culture, reggae, Bob Marley, whatever. But all the money, 99% of the economy is external, and then we argue in Jamaica as to why we can't do this with the product or whatever. And if we invite an international joint venture, which is the only way that any product of Jamaica can become economically
Can move
feasible for
forward.
its people, is with the internet. So, in being made a nation, because that was the Rastafari elders' principle, why would you give away a continent for an island when at the time of independence or whatever was being negotiated in emancipation, you're taking on nationhood, coming out of a place that you actually, if you're emancipated, you should be emancipated, connected back to where you were taken from. And it wasn't just an emotional
Right.
decision, it was
Correct.
a
Correct.
practical decision. You understand I'm saying? That you have now become a nation state of 300,000 Barbados, whatever million here, and million here now is 6 million more in the diaspora because you
Three
have to ship
million.
them out. Exactly. And this is why I'm saying our judicial or
Mhm.
our whatever system of dealing with these issues, the issue of being
Government.
small is
Yeah.
real. The issue of being small is not personal. It's not about class alone or all of these things. The issue of small in decision making and economy making is real. And so if I have a product and I am
It
creating,
is.
I'm inventing something and my market is external, but there's no provision where I am, no protection, no nothing. You understand? It goes out in a suitcase or, you know, something like that. And then it roots itself in the diaspora and then goes on and on. And then I'm sitting in Jamaica with some judges to judge what on what. So I respond to your descriptor of why Jamaica can't have a final court of appeal because it's too small, and small is real. It has a real effect, and it should be. We should understand that. That's why the
Yes.
CCJB had expanded the small, you know, to another level, you know.
Yes.
But something.
You are 100% correct. Okay.
That's an
Sisters,
interesting
All
point
gentlemen,
there.
it's now late in London. We don't want to keep you up too long, you know, bro, because I know.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna have to depart, but I wanted to answer Ratigan's other aspect before I
Yeah,
go.
go ahead.
Ratigan, what question was it, or is it you that was going to ask me the question?
What question you talking about?
Yeah. No. I asked a question already. The question was about the hierarchy and your supreme
No, man. The
confidence.
question listen. The question in relation to, I've always said, do not trust the words of a politician. So I just
Yes.
wanted to know if that was something that was going to be discussed on here. Having
Well,
said that,
so the host, Anita, you
um,
want present the question to him before him leave.
Never trust the word of a politician. I'm
No,
somewhat lost here.
no. The question has having to do with what the minister said, what ISAT wrote.
Okay, okay. No, I'm clear. Yes, I'm talking about the Morrison Rattigan saga. Where we are with that, because we are told that you are the lawyer representing Mr. Rattigan in that tussle.
oh
I
yes.
you
So
know,
Mr.
I,
Okay, I'll
I
just
heard,
give a
I
quick
listened to
overview.
some
Yeah. Okay.
comments on YouTube while I was talking about that, and it seemed like the sentiment is that Rattigan should go forward. So, hold him accountable because that's what we're practicing.
Right. So I
What's your
would the I would say this: Mr. Rattigan was defamed in one of the most unfortunate ways, and through what is now the modern medium, through a YouTube program, social media, which is to me the primary source of information in the modern era. There were very inflammatory words used to him, coupled with defamatory. And collectively, I think that it was a clear damage to Mr. Rattigan's reputation. And we think it's an issue for the court to ventilate in light of the fact that I did get the opportunity to listen to the apology. I don't think it is properly classified as an apology. One of the things about an apology, especially if one is to be sincere and genuine in the error of their ways, is that empathy, humility, and compassion are three words that are supposed to come across, and that was completely absent. Um, I'm not in any way suggesting that somebody's to go on their knees and grovel, but the magnitude of the defamation and coming directly out of the office of the Prime Minister via the Ministry of Information to disseminate misinformation, it could never, in the eyes of, if we are to believe that justice and equality, natural justice I'm speaking of, and courtesy is to prevail, that we simply walk away from when somebody defame you. And so Mr. Rattigan will receive some paperwork to review, and we are pressing on ahead.
fully agree with you, Isaac, on that. Excellent explanation.
Ratigan,
I defer to learned counsel.
you have anything to add? Okay, I agree
I
with that.
defer
That's
to learned counsel.
If I can say one thing, because I did listen to it too. I did listen to the that program you're referring to, ISAT, in terms of the so-called apology and thing. And the words I would use is right, but like I said, I fully agree with it. I fully agree with the way you put it. Right, the words I would use is that they try to trivialize this thing as if what they did is nothing, and at the same time, it's like Ratigan should understand because him know how things go, right? In this whole scenario that we are in. Man said things and him said it more like is him bridging him talking to, right? And him really not mean no harm, but you should understand, right? It's just words that come off his mouth, and it don't work like that, right?
No,
because
you sound like
it's a far-reaching
like
impact.
Patrick, it sounds like you are giving him an out or you sympathize with him. Let me
No, I'm telling you how he tried to put it across.
Let me finish. No, let me finish, brother. From me was a little boy, you see? Old people say, you can't step on my toe and after me suffer that pain, you come back and smile with me.
No.
You understand me? You can't make an apology and the big broad smile on your face. Our old people tell us that from day gone. If you apologize, you have come across sincere. And that is one thing about them. They have the eyes set on certain people. Ratigan is one of those who is his target. Okay? So when they come with this gimmick and what have you, listen, brother, man, I said, you and Ratigan, full speed ahead. These guys must be held accountable. They can't go around and make statements against people for what? Because they find themselves in a certain position. Oh, man.
I think they have gotten away with it for a long time because of social media. Mm-hmm.
Hold on, Maxine. Isaac.
Yes. I was saying that we must not forget that last year a news. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was saying before I go that last year a new standard of accountability was set by the Honorable Olivia Babsy Grange. There was a call for me to be removed as an attorney, removed from all positions, including teaching at the university where I used to tutor law for the upcoming generation. I was removed from all responsibilities for quoting Vybz Kartel. I was suspended for 2 years and I paid a $520,000 fine respectfully. And the standard is to be that when you're in public office, there's a certain decorum expected of you. So you are not to defame citizens or embarrass them, disgrace them, and disgrace the office that you hold. And the effect of it is that you should resign. The private sector, the church, many civil societies, bar associations, and other things said that there was a new standard. That standard clearly is not followed in this situation where the Minister of Information is allowed to put out misinformation and lies against a citizen of the country, and it's trivialized.
Exactly.
So it can't be selective prosecution or selective morality. That I say should be rejected and ought to be ventilated in the court. So had he done it in his personal capacity, I would say, well, Mr. Ratty and the dirty troubling them and them respond. But that's not the situation. You hold the office as the Minister of Information. At no time you should give out misinformation because the entire country looks to you for information that they can believe and is accurate. So when he said that Mr. Rattigan was dishonorably discharged, the man on the JUTC bus is going to believe him because he's the Minister of Misinformation. that harm is irreparable, and an apology certainly in that form could not cure it. But I'm not going to ventilate the issue anymore further to that. But that's how I feel about that. A coupling of who said it and the office that they hold, and the close connection to it is government. It's government against the citizen of the country again. And the resources to fight government is never easy. And it goes back to the very thing we were talking about in terms of the Palmer case and how a poor youth would have to go up there. And they do it every day because they come on the news and they call people violence contributors. They put it pictures on the internet and tell you report to police station. And half the time you don't do nothing. And there's nothing you can say to people when these things are put out. The information is put out. And the retraction comes back at page 127 of some gleaner paper. And everybody move on with their lives after your character is marred. So there has to be some ventilation of that. And I'm gonna leave it right there. My battery is dying and I have to depart. Thank you so much everybody for having me. And I hope the rest of the show you enjoy. I'll be watching from the sideline.
All right. Let me just add.
Enough respect, youth.
Excellent. Excellently done.
Let me just add a little piece to say that.
All right.
Let me just add it. Yeah. All right, Isaac. Let me just add a little piece to say that. And this is factual. This is not legal, just factual. That the statements made were done during prime time on a Sunday evening. I think they were made on the program started at 7 p.m. The program on which the statements were made. Now, the so-called apology was delivered after midnight. I think it was
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock in the morning. I think it was on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So, and I think they had 2 listeners at the time. 1 o'clock in the morning. I think it was on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So, and so it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and they had 2 listeners, opposed to 7 o'clock when the statements were made on a Sunday, and they had thousands of listeners because it was streamed and restreamed by a whole bunch of people. But let me just add something, right, to what Isaac said. And I'm looking at a document called Job Description for Ministers of Government, right? And it's dated June of last year. Now, keep in mind the statement made by the minister was made in January of this year. And there's a little section here. It says, the office of minister, meaning any ministry, office of minister is therefore reposed with public trust and confidence in the use of discretion and good judgment to make decisions to promote the public good. Now, I ask, what public good was promoted by the statements that he made? The paragraph goes on to state, ministers have the awesome responsibility to make decisions on behalf of the public. None was made on my behalf. They are expected in all spheres and endeavors. In all spheres and endeavors. That key word there is all. To respect this public trust and confidence and embody the exercise of discretion and good judgment in stewardship of public affairs. Now, he's in charge of information. That's his public affairs business. And so you would expect that when a minister of information is speaking, that he would speaking from the province of facts. He wouldn't be speaking, trying to mislead the public or trying to besmirch someone's
I'm being highly responsible too.
Exactly. So, I mean, they're and it's funny because I have a few parliamentarians who have reached out to me, and they reach out in a sympathetic fashion, and I've said to them, look, you really need to talk to ISAT. I'm not the one driving this train. It's ISAT. Whatever my counsel tells me to do, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So, and you heard him with, eloquently state what the position is. So,
it was not an apology.
Yeah. So,
but another key point to Will is that I think one of the things they might be trying to get at is they're trying to see if you are gonna beg them for an apology in a nice way. And that's not about to happen. That wouldn't constitute an apology.
Hey, you give me a chance to state a quotation from my favorite minister. That will never happen.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that will never happen. But I sent you something because
Yes.
this one, you
Yes.
see that, right?
Yes.
And if it's true, if that is true, I mean, I sent it to you, Nita. I sent it to you as well. I mean,
I saw it. What
that's
is it
true.
about? What is it about?
So I was having a
What's it-
conversation with somebody this morning, and while I was having the conversation, they said, "Hey, somebody just sent me something. You need to take a look at this because I think it will be a good reference for anything that you plan to do with the minister." And then I read it and I said, "Wow, I'm still trying to verify if it's true or if it's AI. You know, I'm still trying to verify." Mike Patrick,
That's the only thing I can do, laugh. Because
Gentlemen, let's
hey,
you-
well,
move along.
Patrick, you need to send it to last on
yes, I said it. I said it.
I'm send it to John also. But let's
Yeah.
move along. Bob Marley in the news again. Bob Marley movie 80 million as of today. That's what it's going on. But seems like within the family it's just confusion. And Rita Marley and Cindy, and somehow it seems to me that within our local music industry, somehow the men present the woman in a certain way and like, get them to fight amongst themselves. I don't know, but Maxine, you are a leader in that movement, the reggae industry movement. What's going on with the Bob Marley thing and this thing about Cindy wasn't in the movie, they left her out and Rita and all that. What's going on? I think you have your ear on the ground better than I. What can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you that it's the lowest hanging narrative available to the people on what is happening, and it
This
certainly
is
keeps
pertaining
the
to
people
Cindy and Rita Marley.
it certainly keeps the people
Yeah,
distracted.
you know.
No, I was saying it's the lowest hanging narrative attached to the existence of the movie and what the movie represents, and the editing, not editing. I don't know if it was put out there in order to create controversy and focus. You know what I mean? It's very unusual for movies to be treated in this manner by, like 1 minute there's a scene in, there's a next minute there's a scene out, who seems to be invited, who is not, and it seems to provide a kind of opportunity, like I said, for the lowest hanging fruit to be ate when, the bigger fruit are higher up in the tree, apparently, But just to say that I was speaking about it a while ago in relation to the law and how we live our lives, and how these men and women, because it's not just men do it, it's probably coming out of slavery in relation to having children in Jamaica is more to do with the labor force and providing labor, than it is the matter of love. We are told, coming out of slavery, where we were told to mate and made to mate in very, adverse situations, and where the family was crucified. There was no family because you weren't even human. You were a chattel, right? And somehow the Bible comes in emancipation or whatever, to give you rules that you must go and marry, but coming out of our slavery situation, there's no other part of our lives that would afford meeting people and, marrying because marriage is really for economic reasons, meaning people arrange marriages. Like this idea of falling in love is really a new concept, maybe coming out of capitalism, but usually throughout humanity, you marry in order to raise the economic welfare of your family, of your village, of your community, right? And marriages are negotiated in that manner. And it's an economic principle. That's what I'm saying. So now with men in Jamaica having so many women, and it's authorized literally, baby mother syndrome is like I don't know how much generations where it comes from. No research seems to have been done on that, other than they try to judge you that you're not married or married. And the marriage in the what I've experienced, I've been in 2 situations as a woman, and the only reason that I survive with um, my integrity intact is because I have a career. You understand? Uh, and my career offers me economic independence, and it also offers me stature. And these men that may have, I may be in a relationship with a man that have several other women, and I would end up feeling sorry for the women. You understand, you understand what I'm saying? As much as I'm drawn in, because that man has the power to dismiss those relationships and organize it how he does fit. Now, I understand polygamy coming from different cultures where men are, and polygamy again is a means of a man developing wealth and developing his children or his wealth. You understand? But there's a principle, I guess, from that society that's polygamous, how these people are treated. If you have 3 or 4 wives and whatever amount of children, there's some rule of engagement and disengagement that is oftentimes linked to your family who had to pay a dowry. There's some structure. Our structure is slavery, right? Because these, especially with the music, most of these practitioners are coming out of the inner cities, right? And the relationships are actually ways that people try to get out of their poverty. So a don or an artist or whatever is able to wield his status. You understand what I'm saying? In a real way, right? And gain all of these relationships, and they're real. And the woman, if she tries to defend herself or tries to do anything the same, she's a whore, she's all kind of a things. You understand what I'm saying? And so even in the Bob Marley situation with Rita and Cindy, if you look at Rita, Rita had a child before she was married to Bob, right? The child was adopted. They had whatever they had going on. Then both of them, one in maybe in reaction to the other, started to have children. You understand? And if you look at the whole thing, I don't know who could judge who, except that there was a marriage, and the marriage has an economic principle in law that then overrides anything that you have lived. You understand what I'm saying? So that is what I see playing out, not and because most of us as Jamaicans are living in this hypocrisy, you understand, about the woman and the man and what's going on, then we get caught in the net of saying, oh, this one is a side chick, this one is this one should be that, or whatever. You know what I mean? And you're now being determined the man is a hero. You understand what I'm saying? And you have to be battling what your relationship is and being literally defamed in the process. Or, you know, that's what I'm seeing. I don't know yet how it's gonna be ventilated. I'm more looking at the economic billions and trillions that may be made outside of Jamaica because of this movie, and how unprepared we were as Jamaica to benefit from what the people who were planning the movie were projecting, knowing, you understand, and their whole economy is set up to benefit from this movie. And we are here quarreling about Rita and Cindy.
John.
Okay,
John,
so I went to see the movie when it opened. And I didn't make any comment on Facebook because I really wanted to assimilate it and consider it. And let me tell you this. First and foremost, every year, on the first of every new year, I play Bob Marley. That is who I play. That is what I do. I spend the whole day playing Bob Marley on the first of every year for good reason. And the first reason is that Bob Marley is the main source, the main force that smashed prejudice against Rasta in Jamaica, and the main force that bring reggae music into high society in Jamaica. There is a scene in the movie where his daughter said that them never have no friend in high school because them have money, can go to a regular high school. But them never have no friend. Them couldn't go spend no evening and what you call it when your daughter, the little girl, them and boy, them go sleepover.
Sleepover.
Them couldn't go no sleepover because the middle class people said that all them do is smoke weed. And therefore they wouldn't have them come to the house to spend time. That struck me because it showed the extent of hostility among red-skinned Jamaican, high society educated Jamaican towards Rasta and towards Bob Marley. Having said all of that, the movie that I really look on as being the gargan of Bob Marley's story is not this movie, because I wasn't happy. When this movie finished, I felt that there was something missing. What was missing? First of all, it didn't show how Bob Marley learned music. It didn't show how Bob Marley played music on every continent and the crowds that follow him. In the case of Africa, when he went to Zimbabwe, he put up the money to make the sound, to make this, to play the music, to play for Zimbabwe independence. The movie that I recommend is the one called Marley by a guy named what name? Oh Jesus!
Kevin
I watch
McDonald.
it.
Kevin McDonald.
Kevin McDonald. Check that movie. That is a great movie. showing all Bob Marley, the full story of Bob Marley. I didn't want to talk about the hypocrisy of having more than one woman, because that's a standard thing amongst middle class people in Jamaica. It's just that it cover up. It cover up. Whereas Bob Marley openly uncover it. So what? So what? So that is my view. I play Bob Marley. I will continue to play Bob Marley every first of the year, because I have a picture all over my house. I have a music. I listen to it, as I say, every new year. And I have great respect for him. And I think the movie don't do justice to the man. The movie is about making money.
Mm-hmm.
The movie not really about the history of the man. The only thing I see in that, you know, certain little parts show where I'm getting philosophy from. His philosophy of life. But that is not the only place I'm getting philosophy from. I'm getting philosophy from the people, from the world. Him benefit from the struggles of the people, and him give back with the quality of the music that the lyrics he wrote. And that is why the music live on in every continent, all over the world. Can't dead. Because the issue, up to today, I play war and dedicate war to the people of Palestine, because it could play for any oppressed people. It could pray for any oppressed people. And I tell my daughter them, when I dead, make sure you play war.
You're not dead, man.
Service.
You're not dead, John, man. Come on.
Yeah, you're a real Bob Marley fan.
Yeah, well, it's more than just a fan.
All right, Pastor John.
I get inspiration.
All right,
So
Pastor John.
that is my piece.
Any
Watch the
more
other
reaction?
movie. Watch the other movie. Go to this one and watch the other one, and you see the difference.
Patrick, last.
I never
But
saw it, so
then-
I can't comment.
Well, here's the thing now. I never really want to comment before I see it either. And I had really planned to go see it this week, but this past week, but I never get the chance to do that. Too busy. But definitely I'm gonna see it though, because I'm getting so much things and so much argument keep pushing at me about it, that I definitely am gonna see it this week, so that I can comment on it. So I want to hold my comment for the time being, but definitely something I want to speak to, right? Because Maxine especially raised some key points, which you know, I really, you know, don't even want to get into it, because it is so important, but I don't want to say anything until after I look at the movie.
Yeah, look, I just want to add, I mean, Michael framed it in a Rita Cindy box, and I responded accordingly. But I am the niece of Clement Dodd, who was defamed in the movie. He was shown as the creator of the group musically and recorded them for several years. He was positioned as a gun-toting. I mean, it was so defamatory. It might have been 6, I don't know how much seconds. I only saw a clip. I haven't seen the movie as yet. But the idea that One Love is an issue because it was recorded for my uncle at his label. And the whole action of the start of this career, the black man in the movie was shown as a gun-toting oppressor, and Chris Blackwell as the white man was promoted as a savior, right? That is completely erroneous propaganda, right? The Whalers, as you said, where they get their story, there was a marriage between Rita and Bob, but there was a prior marriage between Bonnie, Peter, and Bob. A very intensive marriage, which
That's right.
it involved families. It involved the role of Bonnie's father in being a stepfather to Bob and the whole group. There's so much context that is not, maybe it's not available because it's 50 years now since the group broke up, and 50 years of misinformation and all kind of suits and all kind of things. This is a privilege situation, but it is a privilege that is very negative. The love story, and Rita, Rita wrote her own book, and I think there may be 500 books written on or about Bob Marley. You understand? And a movie gets to choose, or a company is going to go for the tearjerker. You understand? Because even the two concerts that it's supposedly around, Smile Jamaica and One Love, that's a huge political scenario. You understand? That's glossed over as music or, some kind of tensions. But again, for the Jamaican people and what the cost behind those two concerts, what was happening. And, it still portends to get other narratives out. But who is going to have the money to go and make the next movie? Who is going to be interested to, everyone say, oh, there is other ways to get these gaps filled. But those gaps have to be filled by money. Yes, I'm saying, like, we all have our stories. They'll never be told because there won't be an economy behind us to get them told. So going to this movie is beyond. It has to be, the movie for me is great as an activist, because Jamaica has a proverb that says, the higher the monkey climbs,
The more I'm
the more
exposed.
it's exposed. And I look at the movie, I hear the critiques, etc., but I am looking at the bonanza of exposure that is now happening, and the critical analysis as to who is going to grab onto what.
That don't decide already. Oh, you mean it's obvious?
Who is going to grab onto what going forward? Because Peter Tosh movie is going to be made. Bob Marley was partially assassinated. I mean, attempted assassinated. Peter was murdered, right? And the assassination or attempted assassination and the murder are connected. You understand what I'm saying? They're connected. Bonnie's reclusiveness of not engaging when they try to say, oh, him don't want to work. Who wants to go and work when the cost and the price of work seems to be death? If you're in a group with 3 people and you see 2 people die in some funny money, you understand? And you're a Rasta, and this is Babylon, and whose money is spending, and who, it's a lot of different things to be studying. A lot of opportunity for me, for us to disclose who is this small place Jamaica,
Who
and
is
who
it?
owns us. And when all is said and done, and we have argued with ourselves, who holds these billions of dollars when nationally we cannot even make one museum, not even one national museum about our music, that is now creating billions. And there's a reason for that. It's not blaming a politician or blaming or whatever. There's direct reasons that we ought to know accept for ourselves and decide now, how are we going to be a nation? You know, John is speaking about his manifesto. What are the facts that we're going to put about ourselves to be able to go to our people and say, you know, this is really the conditions that we're living under? You understand what I'm saying? And stop being in this orange green when neither the orange nor the green can assist us, because neither of them are actually looking at or they're not there. Just like how ISAT says, remove the JCF because of their investigative shortcomings. You also have to remove the JCF. They're going to have to remove the orange and green for the same shortcomings. You understand what I'm saying? That is why for the last everybody's talking about reparations. Reparations, we're talking about the Privy Council being the country that the government and the CARICOM has set up a whole body of and have a lawyer to defend that we need the money, you know, based on what they have said. You understand? And then we want to be a republic in a reparations case. How are we going to be a republic? With the reparations money or without the reparations money? You as a government has framed this. You have hired lawyers. And then you're questioning why we don't want the CCJ, why we're having these issues in Jamaica with our law and our judiciary, because of the poverty, because of the legacy of this country and whatever they, whatever they did, whatever they continue to do, because we are still servicing them. Our people are going to their countries to work and make their countries great. That is our diaspora. What is our diaspora contribution to the UK and to the United States and to Canada? We have made money, status, all kind of things for these countries, different from the little remittance that we send home or is sent home here. What have we built? We've built those countries. They're now, you know. So again, I'm here for the whalers. I'm here for Mr. Dodd. And I'm here for the people of Trenchtown. You know what I'm saying? Who is poverty and ravaged despite the story. Where does the benefit? They went down and they filmed it. I'm sure some benefit came in the filming, you know, of the movie. But is there any benefit going to come out of the trillions that these different companies are making, selling to their
token?
Okay, bye.
I would want to move a motion though that we defer this discussion for next week. Right?
Yes,
So
everybody
we can see the movie. Yeah.
I'm going to go back again.
Okay, but I want to say this. Controversy sell products. Create a controversy, then you push in the product, and that's what's going on. The same old way of selling items. You understand? So the Marlies are into making money. They're about money. Cindy Breaks period, they're about money. So they just create something and just add fuel to the thing and keep it going until probably by next week you're going to hear that the movie probably passed 100 million. So that's what the report is saying today. That's 180 million so far. And by the end of the month, who to tell, might go on further. But that's the Mali and that's the thing. And I think that is far removed from ordinary people right now. Ordinary people in Jamaica, I wonder what they must survive. You know, which brings me to the question of the local government election. Because that is the topic on people's mind right now. Not so much the Mali and Baba and what have you. People just laugh and different, but the local government election, I think, is more important right now. From what I'm gathering and talking to people on the ground, the People's National Party stands a good chance of winning the election. They're organizing, Mark Golan gaining traction, and it look like we are in for a change because this local government election is seen as a referendum on wholeness. I'm not sure, but that's my take. I would like to hear what the others have to say. Should we? Well, Patrick said we should suspend the discussion. I agree with that. But what about the election, the local government election?
You never mentioned anything about wholeness statement. I guess it was this week. I just saw it this morning on YouTube. With him actually announced how much million dollars for each constituency towards road repairs, road construction or road reconstruction.
He said that months ago. He said that what he just repeating what he said about
But the thing about it, yeah, the thing about it though is that it's again it's that same old trick that they use before every election.
Promise.
And it's always the same promise. They use the road issue when it's like road only bad at when election will come.
But look at Jam World. It's now gonna be a entertainment center because of the movie impacting the local elections. So give it something to say.
Old news again, because how long now them been talking about mega entertainment center? Yeah.
From Siaga was a boy.
Yeah.
Long. Let me say right last. Let me say about Jam World for a long time.
Oh yes, and Jam World. I mean, remember Jam World site is not that a great site either. So
no.
Whoever want to invest in a Jam World, I go consider the physical space where it's at, and all the risks concerning Jam World. Remember, in the 80s, that whole area was flooded, coming up to the brink of the Dyke Road, right? So, I mean, every time I hear them mention about development at Jam World, I take it with a grain of salt because all of it always diminish after time. It's many times that proposals have been made about Jam World, but the site itself is a very risky site because it is at the end of the Rio Cobre and right across from the causeway, right? And as I tell you, the last time that place flooded,
that is swampland.
The last time the place flooded, the water rose about 12, 13 feet up to the edge of the Dyke Road, flowing over into Waterford. So we can take that with a grain of salt. In order to develop that site, they're gonna have to spend millions and millions. Anyway, I feel I don't share the total optimism about a PNP victory in the local government election. I think the PNP, they can win, yes, but I won't give them make my prediction a total victory for them, because when you look at the statistics, in 2012, the PNP held 151 divisions to 75 divisions held by the GLP. Come 2017, that election, it was a total reversal, right? From that, the GLP win, I think, 130 divisions, and the PNP won 98. The sentiment in the country, I don't think the sentiment is that great in terms of anti-GLP, right? There's anti-GLP sentiment, but I don't know. I don't know if it is as great to create a next total reversal so that the PNP can win. Because in order for the PNP win, right, it has to be another revolution. It has to go the other way, right? 130, the GLP presently have 130, the PNP has about 98. So it would have to be a big push, right? Or the sentiment would have to be really, really anti-GLP right across the country to have such a reversal. I don't know if that sentiment is as great in the country right now, right? And I don't know if as much, remember as Patrick raised about some of the things that the GLP is doing, right, in the individual divisions. They're spending money, they're buying votes, right? They're doing the normal pork barrel politics, right? And all of that affect people's ability to see clearly and to vote. And the sentiment, as I pick it up across the country, I don't know if it is sufficiently great to create that reversal, to make that 130 divisions go to the PNP, right? And the GLP have the lesser portion of that split. I don't know.
You know what you're not taking consideration is that PNP lost the election because their supporters did not turn out. They had a very low turnout.
But what has
While the
happened so
JLP had a much, huh?
But right now, the advantage is that the GLP is in power. Them have resources. Them have the resources. Them able to better manage the pork barrel politics. Them able to better manage the crash program type work in the various divisions.
As always.
Right? And they are better able to pay people to vote than the PNP at this time because they are in power.
Yes. This development in Jamaica gone past that. Where it's at right now, the people them just want get rid of owners, them identify them as thief. Say them man the two thief. That is the sentiment you get. Them just want vote them out. As a woman said to me like,
I pick up that sentiment in Anita, and that's clear. I pick up.
It's not so much a vote for the PNP, you know. It's more a vote against the corruption. People see these individuals as crooks and thieves.
But is that sentiment?
But there's a strong fed-up sentiment too.
Evenly and strongly spread across the country to create that total reversal. Because remember,
I would say yes.
Okay.
Maxine,
you think so?
What if Rattigan? I know you're in touch with Jamaica and whatever. What the sentiments you're getting on the election?
I agree with the sentiment that it's a referendum on the government and the government's failure, particularly for service delivery. I think one of the things we have overlooked is the effect and the magnitude of social media on elections. I think social media is going to play a very big role because no longer are people listening to, no longer are people captive audience to mainstream media. A lot of people now look to social media for their news and entertainment. So I think that is going to play a role. And shows like this show, for example, where you can highlight some of the broken promises, for example, and just keep reminding people and keep reinforcing the fact that these people, they work for us. And, you know, I just saw a video where the Prime Minister said that he was talking about some policy and he said, this is the season of promise.
Silly
This is
season
the
of
season of
promise. Yeah.
promises. Yeah. And so people have to kind of remember that you're seeing him now more than you saw him over the past 3-4 years. He's talking to you more now than he ever did. And then he come out and say, every ghetto youth is a star. And we're supposed to buy into it. And then we said, so what happened to the star then where you lock up? What happened to the star then we get killed? And we know that after the election, all them was starred right now. They need to ask themselves the question, falling star or shooting star? Because one way or the other, you won't be the same star that he's categorizing you as now. It won't be after the election. One way or the other, it won't be. So I think people need to, and the idea of them buying votes, that's been going on from time immemorial, whether it's cash or in kind. And so what we do, we tell people, if them offer you money, take it, because I don't have the money to give you. And if them offer it to you, whether it's 5,000, 10,000, whatever, take it. But remember to become an informed voter. And that's what the purpose, that's the main purpose of a program like this and my program and the other programs, is to inform and educate people. Because, Nita, I cannot begin to tell you how many people have said to me, had it not been for you and the others doing a similar program, we would never know half of the things going on in Jamaica. Them say, is Uno open up our eyes. So we say, we are open up your eyes, but we also want to open up your brain so that you can think. Not only must you see, but you must become critical about what you see. Take the money. And if an MP or a councillor or whatever, if they're doing great for your family and for your constituency, and fine, vote them back in. If not, then you know what to do. So I'm not telling nobody take the money and no. Take the money, because this part of them said that unemployment is 4.3%. People still are suffer, because what them don't tell you is that like 75% of the jobs that them talk about is minimum wage or slightly above minimum wage. And just think about it. You have to work for you are a single parent and you work 14,000. What's the minimum wage? 13, right? But make us say you make 15 and you have 2 mouths to feed and you have your bills to pay and you have to go to work, and you can't make ends meet. It's tough. Every day I get calls from people who tell me, say, well, we are suffer down here. We are suffer. And I say to them, say, well, turn that suffering into something else. I am hearing you. I'm doing what I can do, but you have to help yourself too. You can't just look to me and say, boy, you suffer, and then that's the end of it. Because you voted for somebody who promised you prosperity. Remember that. You voted for somebody who promised you prosperity. And the person and that prosperity has not materialized. What we have is poverty. And by the way, the poverty rate went up despite what them tell you. So that's my take on it.
I would want to go a little further though, Will, is that one of the things which I think we have attempted to do, and to some extent is doing, right, is to get people to see more what their responsibility is as individuals, as citizens, right, of Jamaica. See, responsibility is to yourself, of course, to your family, right, and to your country. And in so doing, it means that you have to have a responsibility too when it comes to selecting government, right, and holding government accountable. That's some of the biggest pieces of the work that we have been doing, right? That the job comes with a self-responsibility, right? You have to become more aware of what's happening around you, right? You have to become more aware of how you can take action to impact your everyday life, right? And not just take what politicians give you as gospel and look to politicians as leaders and all of this stuff. You can't be a leader, right? And you are the one employing him to do a job, right? And the job that he ends up doing more than anything else is ruling you, because they behave just like the colonialists, right? If not worse in some cases. So the whole matter self-responsibility is important.
Can I say something?
Gentlemen and lady,
Yeah.
I have to.
Think quietly.
I have to leave. I have a 6 o'clock at another
Yeah,
location.
John, we're gonna close.
But
We're gonna
before
close
you,
up shortly, John.
yeah, okay. But I wanted to suggest something based on the discussion with ISAT, and that is the Charter of Rights. I'm going to print it and circulate it because I'm almost certain it having certain things that we want to go in the manifesto. So it sounds like it's an independent, right, Will? It's an independent document that we can
Yes.
right, 13, it's what, 13 2B or something like that.
Yeah, you can just use the whole thing. He actually did a series on the Reason with Ratigan show where he went through it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he took chapter 3 and he went right through it. But yeah, it's a good document to peruse.
Meaning, when
But
I
it,
say the whole thing, the whole constitution, I'm trying
No,
to.
the Charter of Rights.
Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
And I
I'm
mean, it's
actually on the ground in Jamaica. Actually went to Skengdon's Mr. Black's party. It's his birthday today, so they had a session in Mandeville where I, saw a lot of people and the energy. And so there is a big buzz in relation to what's happening on the ground, and there is a buzz, like Lass is saying, on the other side. They're campaigning, heavily. And what I would say, as Lass is saying, I don't know what is going to be won, but whoever wins, their feet will be under fire. You understand? Like the idea of winning in an environment where the people are suffering. I'm coming from New York, where the people there are suffering from high food prices. A lot of chaos is happening in the political systems of America that must redound, here in Jamaica, in how people feel. People feel very unstable in America. And a lot of, I saw a lot of focus on Jamaica, even from Jamaicans in the diaspora, because a lot of people want to know, as even picking up on what Ratigan is working on and what the diaspora is feeling. They're also feeling very insecure in America and would like to come home to Jamaica, so they would like it clean up. So the idea of what is at stake now in Jamaica, you understand that the economy is not there to like soften any blow, and we're gonna, we're under a very heavy spotlight. So there will be change, and the change may just be, as Lasse or as Mikey's saying, it's not for the PNP or against the, or for the JLP. It's just change, and within that change, let real change happen. Not that you're just switching, one for the other, because the world is changing. They're saying, I was leaving, and the US Parliament was whatever, Congress and senators. I mean, it's like chaos up there with the Trump and Russia and Ukraine and money for Israel or Gaza. It's crazy. So if it's so crazy there, you can just imagine what is happening here. So I would bet on change. And if the change, the energy is gonna move something, not for or against, but
I want
something
to
gonna
say
move.
something here. I want to say something here is that while we bet on change and focus on change, don't forget This past week, the Jamaican police intercept a shipment of guns coming into the
Yes.
islands. 60 firearms and thousands of rounds of ammunition, which sort of reminds some of us of the 1980s. But that is what is happening in Jamaica. 60 firearms are intercepted in one shipment.
In one shipment.
So, vote for change, but be vigilant.
No,
That's where
it's
going, you
it's
know.
because of that change. Is that the whoever is being changed or who want to, you would have an occurrence like this, because then you'd have to deal with force against the change. But there is a change agent going through. You know what I mean?
That's what people are saying. They can feel it. They
I
can feel it.
I am predicting a very close election. I'm not convinced that the sentiments for change is totally like overwhelming, right? And what I look at is that in the last election, in some of the parishes, the PNP was routed. Like in Westmoreland, there was no PNP councillor elected in the last election. 14 of the divisions, right, in that parish went to the JLP. St. Anne, which is a traditional PNP parish, the PNP had 11 divisions and the JLP had 5. And there was a total reversal of that order after the last election. So I'm saying the enthusiasm for an election is not that we can't just look at an enthusiasm for getting out the JLP, but we have to look whether or not there's enthusiasm across the country for election, something that motivate the people so much that a great, because what happened in those last 2 elections was very, very low turnout. Is there anything happening in Jamaica at this time that will motivate people to say, I want to vote at greater number? At great, give me a chance, Mikey. Give me a chance, Mikey. At greater numbers than they participated in 2017 and greater numbers than they participated in 2012. In 2012, there was corruption. In 2017, there was corruption, right? And it still did not motivate people, right, to come out. Both in the series of local government elections that has been taking place for the last couple of years, and in the general election, there is a trend downward in terms of voter participation. If there is something that can motivate people, not just about party, but motivate people to say, I need to participate more in the election, we could probably look to say, I mean, it would justify not a close election, but an overwhelming victory by the PNP or support. But me looking on from a distance, I don't get the feeling that there's that force, that there's that sentiment that is motivating people to say, I want to participate in this election more than the previous elections. And
I think
it needs that kind of buzz to reverse the disparity in the who vote for GLP and who vote for PNP, and how many seats the GLP have versus how many seats the PNP have in the local government system at this time.
And to your point, Flas, I would just want to add this. I mean, very key points you made right there. The other piece of it is that I have not seen anything, but I don't know if anybody else has, in terms of more details with the polls or anything. coming out with information as to, right, what the new voting list would want to look like in terms of new voters. Because more people come of age and can vote, right, and so on. What are these numbers looking like, and what are the likely dynamics, right, in terms of support, right? Because all of these things are contributing factors to not just election turnout, but in terms of the volume of voters too. So that's a real key point you mentioned, Last.
But what about the fact that the PNP, because what I got from the last cycle of elections was that the PNP was split, and a lot of disaffection amongst the PNP that is not there now. And it allowed for the JLP to go into PNP communities and flip them. I don't think that flipping, I think there'll be some major change, because I think that the last go round, there was a major disaffection and split in the PNP that is not there now. You understand? And that's the energy that I also see of a re-energized base, because I don't hear about this one versus that one, Ray. And that was a major factor
But
in
Good point. Good point.
but John,
Hold
John,
on, hold
I
on. No,
can
go
I go
ahead.
ahead?
No,
Go ahead.
Yeah, Maxine raised a point that can contribute to the whole thing. But remember, if you look back, even before that major split between Bunting and Phillips, the PNP activity was declining dramatically. The split between Bunting and Phillips, it made the thing worse. But that was not where the declining activity at the PNP started. The declining activity at the PNP started from earlier in the 80s, right? Where yes, it started earlier from in the 80s, right? Where you have less people participating in the community organizations, right? The group structure broke down from where in the mid 80s, the PNP group structures, most of the PNP group structures broke down.
Earlier than
Right?
that, earlier than the mid 80s, more like the start of the 80s.
Yeah, because remember, after 1980, they had so much division as to why they lost the elections, right?
Yep.
And from that whole milieu coming out of their division in the party as to what was the reason for them losing the elections. Most of the divisional structures were down.
Gentlemen, we have spent
and
2.5 hours
lady.
and sistering. Last year
Brethren
raising
and
some very
sistering.
brethren and sistering. Yeah, you're raising some important point. I think it's something that needs further exploring. Okay, we are
We have 8
we are going
days.
into we are going into the election. Election is probably 1 week from today. That's
Yes,
most likely. It's the 26th. Okay.
26.
By next Sunday, I think there'll be more clarity around this issue. So let's hold the discussion until Sunday. Then we'll have more information to deal with. Sister and brethren, I want to thank you very much for a very informative and enjoyable discussion this evening. I hope the listeners learned something. Besides that, you're not here, but I really enjoy reasoning with you. And I want to thank Mr. Rattigan for that. Brother Will, thank you. Next week, we have to have a discussion about the manifesto at some point. We have
No,
to
we
have that
agree that we're
discussion.
going to meet outside of the
Yeah, that's
Yes, yes, I know that.
not for
I
mention
know
here
that.
anyway.
So it's to set a
I'm
date.
trying to set it up.
Yeah, but that is
What
not
I'm
for
saying, what
mention
I'm
here. You're on here right now. You're not supposed to be mentioning that right now.
gentlemen,
When is him going to mention it?
next week, John, I'm much younger than you, John, so I can't remember stuff somewhat.
Come on, Michael. It's nice to John.
No, man, John blind me with the ball head, man.
Anyway, what is the point? You're setting up the meeting now, or
Point
you're
is,
going to do it next week?
I'm game. You tell me which you want or what have you. But let's talk off here,
Should
because
we?
we're still
Yeah,
alive.
yeah.
Yeah, we're still
Go
alive.
off,
So,
go off here and make
listeners,
it.
remember, like and subscribe to Waterhouse Vibes. Also, I'm encouraging you to stay tuned to Reason with Ratigan. There's never a dull moment with Ratigan and on the Saturday evening, So, until such time, we'll meet again next Sunday. Walk good, smile, and give your face a rest.
And tell everybody how they
Until
do.
then. Tell everybody how they do. Yeah, I think that's so. When John gone, John is the man who say.
Yeah, John Lee. Remember him saying him about 6 o'clock. So him